Item: SCP-774. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures: all supplies of SCP-774 are to be kept in sealed metal barrels designed for hazardous chemical waste. Subjects are to be maintained on hospital beds, kept alive via Procedure 17A. Description: SCP-774 is a byproduct of the halogenazide. Redacted. When. Process redacted. When in contact with the skin, it permeates the body's tissues and selectively attacks bone, dissolving the bone mineral and leaving only the soft collagen. This can occur in minutes or over the course of days, depending on the degree of exposure. The only bone that is not affected by the initial reaction is the skull. However, shortly after the other bones begin dissolving, the anomalous properties of SCP-774 manifest. Calcium leached from the rest of the body is deposited on the skull, creating grooves and ridges that grow from the interior and exterior surfaces of the skull, forming symmetrical patterns of increasing complexity that intrude into neighboring tissue, eventually erupting from the skin or growing to meet other bone tissue. These eventually fuse the bones of the skull, rendering the mandible immobile. The largest pattern observed so far is 2 meters across, induced by Procedure 17A. 1. Intrusions in the sinus cavities create whistling sounds in the subject's breathing which rapidly change pitch and tone, though each skull has a different set of tones. The effect is similar to birdsong. While subjects affected by SCP-774 are unable or unwilling to communicate, their heart rate and breathing becomes more regular when able to hear other late-stage subjects. See Addendum 774-2. Subjects typically expire following the collapse of the ribcage or damage to the spinal cord due to the loss of the spine. However, artificial supports can be implanted, as per Procedure 17A, prolonging life. Subjects kept alive after the complete loss of non-cranial skeleton can be induced to further growth by implanting new bone material. Subject SCP-774-17 has been kept alive 12 years at the time of this writing. Trace amounts of SCP-774 are still found in Subject 17's bloodstream. See Addendum 774-3.